the Yamato carried the largest naval guns ever mounted. 18.1-inch behemoths capable of hurling 3,200-pound shells across 26 miles. Each shell towered over a man and was as thick as a telephone pole. A single hit could gouge out a crater 30 feet deep. Yet, in 4 years of service, those mighty guns managed to sink just one ship, and it was only a destroyer. So how did the most heavily armed battleship in history turn into a colossal failure? The cold arithmetic tells the story. Building Yamato in 1940 cost Japan 137 million yen, enough to produce 1,000 fighter planes. 2 of these giants meant 2,000 aircraft that were never built. And in all of World War II, Yamato's main guns fired on enemy warships only once. In that battle, she unleashed 360 shells at American escort carriers. The result? Not a single direct hit. The only confirmed strikes came from her smaller secondary batteries, not the legendary 18-inch cannons. There was a deeper problem almost no one mentions. The guns were too powerful for the ship that carried them. The shock waves from a full broadside damaged Yamato herself. Radio systems went down, spotter planes parked on deck were destroyed, and sailors suffered permanent hearing loss despite thick steel walls. Every time the ship fired, it injured itself. On paper, Yamato's guns had a maximum reach of 42,000 yards, about 26 miles. Impressive, but reality stripped that number of meaning. Because of Earth's curvature, anything beyond 30,000 yards simply vanished from view. Even with Japan's excellent optics, the best tracking range in perfect weather was 27,000 yards. In actual combat, where smoke, rain, and evasive maneuvers were constant, the effective range dropped to just 18,000 yards. Nearly half of the gun's supposed capability was worthless. And then came the issue of accuracy. At 20,000 yards, each shell had only a 0.2% chance of striking its target. Not 2%, just a fraction of 1. Statistically, Yamato needed to fire 500 shells to guarantee a single hit at long distance. With each barrel capable of only 2 shots per minute, a full broadside required half a minute to reload. Under ideal conditions, it could take 45 minutes of continuous fire to land one lucky hit. American sailors who faced Yamato remembered the spectacle. One destroyer captain at the Battle of Samar reported, "The splashes were magnificent, columns of water 200 feet high. Terrifying, but always 300 yards off. Their fire control just couldn't keep up with us at 25 knots. Meanwhile, the cost of keeping Yamato at sea was staggering. Cruising speed burned through 300 tons of fuel oil every day. At full combat speed, that number doubled to 600 tons. Her maximum range at top speed was only 3,000 miles. By 1944, Japan's dwindling fuel reserves meant the great battleship often sat idle in port, her massive guns silent, while the war passed her by. Each main battery salvo consumed as much steel as building a Zero fighter plane. 9 shells equaled a single aircraft, an exchange Japan desperately could not afford. Perhaps the most damning number of all, Yamato was in commission for 1,200 days. Out of that, she actually fought for only 10. Less than 1% of her service life was spent in combat. The rest of the time she hid from American submarines, sat idle to save fuel, or existed as a fleet in being, a threat on paper, but not on the battlefield. And when the fight finally came, air power made her obsolete. Yamato's initial anti-aircraft defences were laughably inadequate. Just 24 5-inch guns that couldn't track dive bombers. By 1945, the ship bristled with 162 additional anti-aircraft weapons. It didn't matter. On April 7, 1945, over 400 American aircraft swarmed her. Within 2 hours, she had absorbed 11 torpedoes and 6 bombs. In desperation, her 18-inch guns were turned skyward, firing massive 3,200-pound shells as improvised flak rounds. The results were pitiful. Perhaps 3 planes downed in the entire engagement. Survivors later admitted what the crew already knew. One sailor recalled, "We called her Hotel Yamato. The food was good, the air conditioning worked, and we never fought. Our giant guns were just ornaments. We polished them, maintained them, and dreamed of using them. When we finally did, we were already sinking. Her last mission, Operation Tengo, was suicide from the start." Yamato was ordered to sail to Okinawa with fuel for only a one-way trip. The plan was for her to beach herself and serve as a stationary coastal battery. Japanese command knew she would never make it. Still, they sent her and her crew to die. More than 3,000 men perished in what amounted to a propaganda sacrifice. To understand how futile Yamato truly was, look at her American counterparts. The USS Washington, armed with smaller 16-inch guns, sank the Japanese battleship Kirishima in just 8 minutes at close range. The USS Massachusetts crippled the French battleship Jean Bart with similar weapons. American battleships supported every major invasion with relentless shore bombardments. Yamato, by contrast, only fired at land positions once, and even that was an accident while trying to hit carriers at Samar. The math was merciless. 2 Yamato-class battleships consumed resources equal to 6 fleet carriers. Those carriers could have launched 1,000 aircraft, planes that might actually change the course of war. Instead, Japan poured its steel and fuel into 2 Leviathans with guns that could not reliably hit moving targets, could not be supplied with enough fuel to sail freely, and could not survive in the age of air power. The bitter irony? Yamato was sunk not by another battleship but by swarms of aircraft launched from 11 carriers. Each of those carriers cost less than Yamato's main battery alone. The torpedoes that tore her apart cost around $1,000 each. By comparison, every shell for her 18-inch guns would equal $50,000 in today's money. She was destroyed by weapons 50 times cheaper than her own. In the end, Yamato's 18-inch guns fired only 360 shells in real combat, and history barely noticed their roar. They were monuments to engineering brilliance shackled by outdated doctrine. What was meant to be the ultimate symbol of naval dominance became instead a floating reminder that technology without strategy is wasted. Her story marks the turning point of naval warfare. The age of the battleship ended not with a duel of giants, but with swarms of small, relatively cheap aircraft overwhelming the largest warship ever built. Yamato was not just a ship, she was the last gasp of an era already gone. Her sinking announced to the world that air power, not massive guns, would decide the future of war at sea. The most powerful battleship ever created proved a brutal lesson. Strength without adaptability is nothing but spectacle before defeat.